Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Metaworld News. We bring you highlights from the world of immersive spaces, online virtual worlds, and generally the spaces online we call the metaverse. I'm Mal Burns, and this particular week is the news for the week ending the 16th of July 2017. And without further ado, I'm going to start with highlights from my own Twitter feed, which you can find at twitter.com/Malburns, or one word, Malburns. I was starting with one which is 8 days ago, which I almost inevitably read out last week, about, well, it's supposed to virtualreality-news.net. And it's about Google Blocks, basically, that lets users create 3D objects in VR. It works with the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift headsets, and you can go into 3D and create objects very quickly. Unlike Tilt Brush and some of the creative painting apps where you actually sort of paint in thin air, this is much more simple modeling kind of system. And in the intervening week, really, I'm just adding in here, I do know that whatever you create in Google Blocks can be easily imported into the high fidelity world, which is in open beta at the moment, and a few folks, including myself, in there playing around from time to time. Okay, now moving on to what is new for this week. Road2VR.com, that's all one word, road2VR.com. Ben Lang, their regular there, reports on a company called Lone Echo, whose virtual hands are an unexpected VR innovation. I think in a previous week we probably announced this as a press release or something, but Lone Echo has impressive procedural virtual hands that take hand presence to the next level. This will seem mechanical to me when I look at the images, but apparently this is a different approach from the idea of wearing gloves. It's about something called hand presence. But you know, forget the touch VR controllers and the gloves and everything else. This is really optimized for using your hands and making them totally feel right in front of you in VR. And they've taken a very different approach, apparently, to some similar things like that. So read more about that at road2vr.com, or indeed click on the links you'll find at that article. Right, and of course the links on that Twitter feed I mentioned earlier for you. Right, readwrite.com have a general interesting article on how universities are defining the future of VR. It looks at the way universities, as you might expect, you know, sort of cutting edge young people at university, you know, where VR is going to be an everyday thing for them, are obviously finding the new innovative ways to work with it that maybe some of the more enduring of us have lost our sense of innovation or something. Anyway, universities at the forefront of VR there. Right, number 555 of the several times a week podcast called Voices of VR. You find it at voicesofvr.com. Incidentally, you can also find a link to it at Road to VR. And the Road to VR post actually includes a bit of background information that the podcast site doesn't give you. Basically, the title of this week's, this particular one from 4 days ago is VR researcher finds full embodiment to be the key component to presence plausibility. Yep, for a podcast, they're really getting into almost academic sounding titles, but anyway, it's an interview with somebody called Mel Slater and his theory of presence and the two components that make it up. And anyway, you can listen to it to find out. I'm not going to give the whole thing away. Right, a report now. Oh, now this one is absolutely great. Gwyneth Llewellyn. Gwyneth Llewellyn Net. I'm actually going to spell that out for you because you really can't not go there. GWYNETHLLEWELLYN Her name is Gwyneth Llewellyn. It's a Welsh name, I guess. She used to blog all the while. Those of you who used to watch our Inworld review, even back in the days when we were sort of a live mugshot cast, as it were, we were always referring to her blog. She writes astonishingly long articles that are really to the point, and I don't think she's written a blog for years, and she's written one this week. And the title of the blog is "Project Sansar is just around the corner, comma, but I doubt that Second Life is going to disappear." Now, that's pretty much an obvious statement for somebody who used to blog, blog about Second Life and other things. And but this is a really, really long article, and that's just one summary that she's chosen to be the title of the articles. She's obviously been looking around at what's going on. So great post from Gwyneth yet again. A ground return, I should say, as well. Okay, digitaltrends.com. That's digital and trends as in fashion, but spelled as all one word, digitaltrends.com. Virtual reality study could help teach self-driving cars ethics. Now, this, again, I suppose, is more sensationalist than academic, really. I know virtual reality can do a hell of a lot of things to enhance the lives of we humble humans, but it had never really occurred to me that you would use virtual reality to teach a car. I mean, not a driver, a car. But apparently self-driving cars can actually learn about ethics by using virtual reality. Now, I'll let you follow the article if you want to try and figure that one out. I'm letting it roll. Right, uploadvr.com. Unity is a game engine of sorts, but it's also used for authoring in VR. It's used for authoring content for the space platform, for example, Signway Space. It's really an all-in-one page makeup language for everything but pages. Whether it's a game, a world, or a 3D experience video, it can do the lot, really. And it's almost a nightmare to work in because it can do all these things. It's very hard sometimes to find the tools that do what you want only. However, they rolled out a major update during the course of the week, and it also has NVIDIA VRWorks support built into it. I do occasionally, for space, pop into Unity. I haven't actually, as far as I know, updated my own installation yet, but I expect this is for much higher end work to do with NVIDIA and stuff like that, the upgrade. Okay, HackerNoon, noon as in midday. So it's hacker and then noon, all one word, .com. Selling the World Virtually is the title of an article, and it's a good article. It starts off saying spatial computing is beginning the slow crawl to maturity as the technology develops into something simultaneously more complex and more stable. New areas of possibility are opening and growing. Now, they are writing from the point of view of spatial computing. And of course, we're used to the spatial aspect of virtual worlds and things. But there's some more traditional discipline, as it were, to do with spatial computing and also, 3D data analytics and that stuff. So, the worlds of games and the idea of virtual spaces for everyone are actually beginning to collide with very specific virtual spaces with particular functions. So that's at hackernoon.com. UploadVR reports that investors spent nearly $800 million on virtual world creation tools in Q2 of this year alone. Analysis firm called DigiCapital tracked, $800 million US dollars worth of investment in the industry, and they've got some nice little charts to show you to back up the figures, so to speak. VRScout.com hosts an embed of the Week in VR review. That's 3 days ago. This is a weekly report podcast reported hosted by Malia Probst, and I can never get that pronunciation right. Viewing it via VRScout.com simply gives you a page surrounding it with a bit more information, and you'll just get listening to the straight podcast subscription. Right, Upload VR. We're moving into near real time here. I think it says 1 day ago. Oculus standalone headset to release this year for $200. Something that actually did happen in the course of, I think it was this week. I suspect it's the week before. Oculus have brought down the prices of their headsets. They're now significantly cheaper than the HTC Vive, and apparently they're going to come down further. Although apparently the reduced price they're offering at the moment will actually go up again, but only by another $100. But they're also promising to bring out next year a different model of Oculus that will be about $200. I'm curious about this. Whether there'll be a quality impediment if they're bringing out a cheaper version. And they do, of all the headsets around, HTC Vive seems to be the most popular, amongst the people who are actually buying these things at the moment. And I have a feeling Oculus may be kind of playing catch up. They want to reinvigorate sales by undercutting the competition. And well, we will see. We will see. You do get Facebook in particular, who own Oculus, of course, are inclined to change their mind about things in really rapid rotation almost. So enough of that. UploadVR.com again has an article. A company claims solid VR tracking with Apple's AR kit. This is actually rather interesting. A company called Nexus Studios have taken Apple's new AR kit, which AR stands for augmented reality, and they've used it with a cardboard VR headset, and they've found that the API that Apple had given them actually, although it's for supposedly augmented reality, apparently it can do virtual reality too in terms of the tracking. They managed, I believe, I'm not going to read the article out to you, so I'm scanning it, but I believe they managed to use Tilt Brush, for example, to paint in 3D, which is something you think of as virtuality. The only difference is with Apple, the Paintbrush 3D actually happened in an open field that you were seeing through into real life. So instead of painting in thin air, you were painting in thin air on the landscape in front of your cardboard or your phone, more precisely. So basically, they can put things in outdoor environment with pointing clouds, and they can display information in VR using the AR layer of Apple's AR kit. Which is kind of exciting because mobile does tend to be the word, and the more AR and VR collide or coexist, the better. Creators.vice.com. Yeah, well, that's the full address of the website you want. They had a nice post. Enchanting Rene Magritte experience goes inside surreal paintings. I actually tweeted this because I'm a fan of surrealists. The Dalis and Magrittes of this year. But they've actually taken some of the work of Rene Magritte, the French artist. What was he, Belgium? I probably put my foot in it there. We'll find out, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah, we'll find out for the comments. I know the Belgians are very fussy if you get them wrong. Anyway, René Magritte, whatever nationality it was, he's a wonderful artist. They've basically taken his work and created a whole experience of going inside these surreal paintings and making it for VR. And I believe it's a kind of VR that will work in cardboard, not just the high-end headsets. I I find that intriguing. I haven't tried this yet, although I should have done. It's just finding the time. For anybody who doesn't know René Magritte, the artist, his paintings used to include sort of people standing and fairly simple objects, but then he would have things like a doorway that didn't have a house around it. It was just a door, and he would have the door open, and you'd look through the door, and there'll be a different scene completely, you know. So he sort of imagined as a painter this sort of, you know, another dimension beyond the half-open door kind of thing, and similar visual tricks really. The dove, you know, flying as a silhouette in the sky, but the dove has the sky in it, whereas the sky in the main environment is very different. So some wonderful stuff anyway.
Yep. And it is Belgium, Mel.
Ah, right. Well, good job. I stand corrected. I apologise to all you Belgians out there if I if unintentionally attributed the wrong nationality to one of your most spectacular historical artists.
Indeed.
Yeah, we'll just do, folks. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. Okay, flipping over to my posts, I guess, at Google Plus here. We will see. 7 Day obviously embeds from last week. Yeah, there we are. Right, so a couple from Hypergrid Business. One from David about the Hypergrid Chamber of Commerce to hold its first meeting next week. Now, that is going to be held this coming Friday, and I don't know whether I've got an exact time for this. And my first thought about this was to go and tell Mike Laurie at the IMA, but although he's not credited anywhere in the posting, apparently he's the one who's kind of hosting it, so I didn't need to worry. This actually collides with the IMA meetings, but I don't think it will be at the same time. Apparently the Hypergrid Chamber of Commerce is actually also one of IMA, the Immersive Metaverse Alliance's working groups. So although it has a separate name and is going to be a separate thing, it's also tied in with the IMA. And basically Podex and Globits and all the people working with currencies and commerce backends are going to inaugurate this Hypergrid Chamber of Commerce. You can find a post about that if you go to hypergridbusiness.com and follow what links you can to find out how to attend that if that's your particular area of interest. Right, video embed from 4 days ago. 4 days ago. iNews, little I, big N, EWZ. That maybe is a giveaway. Basically, this is a video chat show that is sort of news, but it's also lifestyle and stuff too. And it's kind of well, it's not weekly, but you know, it happens every few weeks at least. From Inworlds, and Eleanor from Inworlds is quite often one of the hosts on it too. So it really just covers the Inworlds platform. Inworld spelled with a Z, which of course runs on a different engine from OpenSyn called Halcyon. But it's very, you know, there will be things discussed there and great similarities between that and Hypergrid Destinations. So it's of great interest if you like that sort of stuff. Right, Hypergrid Business again. Hypergridbusiness.com, another piece by David. Lost World opens freebie shops with iffy content. Now, this is actually quite a long post. I almost didn't post this because at first I thought with a title like that, I think that was being a bit rough on Lost World's owner, Joe Builder, a friend of ours. He's a bit like me. He just collects stuff. And if stuff is available for copying, you know, he doesn't charge for it. He just sort of puts it there for you to copy too. Which is fair. I think personally, if you get something for free from somewhere and then you go to the edit it and prevent anybody else copying it, that's rather cheating. You know, if you got it for free, then let people have it for free. So I don't really see it as doing anything wrong. But I mean, a hypergrid business, and David, they're looking at this from the point of view of, Joe has actually said to them that he can't absolutely guarantee that something he's picked up for free somewhere wasn't copy botted by somebody else at some point and then copied again, and he's just found something that he was allowed to of and distribute freely, so he does it. There's no way he can trace and verify all the way back to source. And he has a very good point there. The art of catching a rip-off artist is to catch the first person in the chain before it gets duplicated and duplicated, and it's just not worth your while to try and do anything about it. So anyway, this is actually quite a good article, even though shops with iffy content has this sort of iffy feel to it, doesn't it? But I'm sure it's an intelligent enough article. I'm sure Joe understands and won't take offense. So, oh yes, repeat of that Project Sansar article from Gwyneth. Third Life, the Third Life grid celebrated their third. Let me get this right. Third, first, Friday, whatever. Third Life celebrates first birthday Friday. This is supposed to hypergrid business gone. Now, of course, Friday is long gone, but basically it's the Third Life grid is the name of the grid, and they're a year old, or they were a year old on Friday, and having a nice little party to celebrate that. So we wish them well for their second year. And I didn't get there, but that's nice, I think. And I will just check one more feed here, which is probably a duplicate of the last, but you never know. A lot of video comes out periodically through the week now from High Fidelity. I mean, it's actually video produced and broadcast, it's an advert really for High Fidelity and going in there. They have one called the Jim Jams Show, which kind of get a bit silly at times with the two presenters playing around and talking like, well, actually, they sound like adults trying to talk like teenagers. But there was one 3 days ago, which was rather more interesting than normal. They were looking at some technical things rather than just messing around. hgsafari.blogspot.co.uk. Oh. Nope. Okay. You don't need that because it's from the week before, and of course Safari itself is now on holiday for until the beginning of September, basically. One more video here. Oh yes, I posted this in our Metaworld News Twitter account. Tres Dimensiva Museum. And this is a video walkthrough of a museum that's been built in sine wave space. And I believe that our friend Nebadon was the person who actually built that one. And it's somewhat more complicated than his gigantic Grand Canyon, which is a remarkable build because it takes 6 hours to walk through virtually as well as in real life. Proving that massive builds can be done. But of course, 6 hours of walking through the Grand Canyon, there's not much to see after the first foot or two. It's much the same. So this museum is actually far more interesting. So you might want to look at that. And no, I don't need that. So that's it, really, for my news roundup. But of course, this news roundup would not be complete if we didn't look at a little bit about what the developers of the OpenSim and Hypergrid platforms and other platforms really are doing. So I'm going to hand the mic to James Atloud, who's got a few brief notes from this week's meeting.
Yeah, hi Mel. Just a couple brief notes. It was another well-attended meeting, and I think, as I mentioned before, these meetings have been much more focused on actual development of code, which is very satisfying. They get to be very intense and very detailed. And just for people who aren't familiar, this is a weekly office hours that's held on Tuesdays of the week, and just some of the highlights of the meeting are that there was quite a bit of discussion about putting the stake in the ground and saying it's time to release the code. A lot of part of the people there were saying, it may not be perfect, but let's get this done so that grid owners can make some decisions and try to get everybody more to a standard level with the code.
Mm.
And there was this interesting discussion that I would just advise you go to at opensimulator.org. The meeting notes are posted every week, and also just want to do a kudos to Shira Khan, who is the person that takes the discussion and posts it up to the OpenSim dev site. That's done every week regularly, and so it's great to have somebody putting that information there. And the thing that I noticed most out of that discussion is at the end, someone stated that they felt most of the Avanation code has been integrated into the version 0.9 of the vanilla code. So that I thought that was really something of an accomplishment. One person is going to be checking on the status of the perms testing, because that was one of the things that was holding it up. Another note is that with this release, Bullet would still be the default physics engine, although that can be changed. And then the rest of the discussion really ended up being a discussion about the physics engines and mesh, mesh objects. And it was really interesting because there was quite a good discussion about our designers really considering the physics engine when they're designing mesh. And so things like collision detection and having a phantom object in, say, a mesh car, so that it can collide with things, because mesh doesn't typically collide with objects or have collision detection. So if you're interested in that subject, again, a really good discussion in there. And so again, a well-attended meeting. Sounds like progress is being made on the code, and this just very reassuring. Makes me enthusiastic about Open Simulator, which, as we know, is still the only metaverse platform that we have.
Indeed.
And that's it, Mal.
As we understand it. Okay, well, thank you, James. No, the only one as we understand this is my add-on.
that we know of.
that we can live with.
Yeah, that's true, right.
Yes, arguably other platforms will come along, but we're keeping an eye on those. But yeah, OpenSim remains the center of the universe, I think, especially as far as open source and interoperability is concerned.
Right.
I was there is also a meeting of the Infinite Metaverse Alliance, IMA. It's been happening, it happens at various locations, and if you get there, if you follow Hypergrid Events Diaries, you'll find out which one each week, but frequently it's on the Metropolis grid at Outpost Alpha, I believe, and it's at around 9 o'clock in the evening UK time, which I imagine, let me do that, that's probably 1 p.m. Yeah, that would be 1 p.m. in the afternoon on Fridays Pacific, and on the East Coast it would be more like 5. I know James here regrets that he made some of those, and I do know that they're going to be rejigging, maybe doing 2 meetings, one for Europe as one for America, or trying to come up with a new time that catches both. There was actually quite a lot of talk about physics engines there too. I do know that on their test servers, I think there's one new variation, as I call it, on OpenSim that's being run on the test. Apparently it's something that uses PhysX, rather like Halcyon does, but unlike Halcyon, it is a code base that is Hypergrid enabled, but uses PhysX on their engine. And as for what James was just reporting, I mean, much of this is beyond me, but I do know that when I buy a yacht that I'm meant to be able to drive around in OpenSim and put it down, and all I get is an error message saying I've got the wrong kind of physics engine running. Well, it doesn't actually tell me that, but I intuit from the message that I'm on Bullets and I should be on PhysX, or I should be on some other ODE or something else. It's confusing.
Yep.
It's Uber, yeah, that's
Yep.
it. It's a confusing world, and that's why I leave that to the devs. But we do endeavour to bring you up to date a little bit. So that's it for this week. We'll be back same time next week. We go live at about 11 a.m. on Pacific time on Sundays, and of course you can see this. Well, you probably know it already if you're watching it. You can, if you're watching live, you can see it in replay at YouTube. If you're watching a replay, you don't need to be told that. Basically, do you? Yes. Oh, the brains that work here. Right. I thank you to James for joining me and doing our camera work. And we'll be back next week with the next bulletin. Bye for now.